Joining me for this discussion is an ex-coal miner, David Craddock, another Cumbrian coal mine supporter, Oliver Hodgson, who lives near to the site, plus a climate activist for Extinction Rebellion, Chris Riches. And with me in the studio, Head of Investment at Interactive Investor, Victoria Scholar. Don't tell me we don't have balanced and broad-based panels here on GB News, because we do. Let's talk to you first, David Craddock. You are an ex-coal miner.
Yes.
What do you feel when you hear that this deep coal mine may finally be given approval?
It's a sensation of elation after so much, the mine was approved and then it wasn't approved. And all these talks went back and forth. Eventually you thought, it's not going to happen. And then with all the upheaval, it's suddenly come to the fore again. And I hope it gets approved.
And what do you think, Oliver Hodgson? I know you live close to the site. What's the local sentiment like in terms of whether or not this mine should go ahead?
Yeah, I spoke to GBNews last September about it with Bradley, and it's very much the same now. You walk down Whitehaven High Street, a good 95% of locals on both sides of the political spectrum really see the great benefits of having this mine on our doorstep. Whitehaven is one of the most deprived postcodes in the country, and we are crying out for £160 million worth of private investment. And I think the key there is this is private investment. And as I said, Whitehaven is a very deprived area. We rely heavily on the local nuclear industry, which is being decommissioned. So we certainly need this, and the demand is still there for coking coal. So absolutely, the local sentiment is very much pro-mine. Yes, we have a few who are very fixated on the current climate crisis, which cannot be denied. But for most of us, the economic benefits far outweigh the 0.1% it will contribute to our global emissions, the UK's global emissions, that is.
We've almost entirely removed coal usage, Chris Riches, from our electricity generation, as I mentioned at the top of the show. China's using 420 times more coal than we are, and yet we're polluting into the same atmosphere. Isn't there a case here for a little bit of a reprieve, particularly in light of this Russian invasion of Ukraine?
No, I don't agree, to be honest. I'd like to just touch on a few of the arguments that the previous panelists mentioned on jobs. This mine is going to create about 500 jobs, is what West Cumbria Mining says. A recent report came out last year or the year before, I think, that said that Cumbria has the opportunity to have 9,000 green jobs if the investment is put in the right place. Another thing on there is the Climate Change Committee, so the government's own advisory body, said that it is, this is a quote here, it's desirable and achievable to phase out coal in steel production by 2035. And this mine is predicted to last until 2049. So what we're actually doing, if this mine was to open, is to put people in insecure jobs when coal is going to become obsolete within the next 15 years. The right thing to do here is to start investing in those green jobs that actually have a future. And on the coal dependency question, this is just a complete lie made up by West Cumbria Mining. Over 90% of this coal is going to be exported due to the high sulfur content. It's going to be exported to countries with lower environmental regulations, which is going to be even worse for the planet. The recent IPCC report said that we're on track for over 3 degrees of global warming. That is just catastrophic for so many people across the country, and we cannot accept having a new coal mine.
David, what do you make of those arguments? I mean, Chris has, he studied this closely. You may disagree with some of his interpretations. What would you say to him when he says that Whitehaven can't have this coal mine?
The environmentalists seem to pick up on sulfur content. Sulfur content's never been a problem with Whitehaven coal. They just blend it to suit whatever they're doing. That's just a red herring that they throw in. The coal, you ask the relevant question, do we need the coal, yes or no? And if we do need the coal, why bring it from somewhere else when we've got millions of tons of it beneath our feet in Whitehaven?
There is a certain amount of hypocrisy here, isn't there, Oliver? The government says we're using a lot less coal, but we're still importing coal, so the climate emissions are happening. It's just that they're happening elsewhere.
Yeah, and we're importing coal from countries with really poor working conditions where we don't know, the workers' rights and whatnot. And I think also, you talk about it being a bit embarrassing for the government, but I think with the huge levelling up agenda, it's a bit embarrassing that they're not talking about the huge economic benefits. And I think, the chap earlier touched on the 9,000 new green jobs without a bit of substance as to who, what, and when. Who are those jobs being funded by? The magic money tree in the Parliament orchard? We've just been through two of the worst years our country's ever faced, and he's on about 9,000 new jobs. But it would be nice to know where they're coming from, because obviously everybody would support that amount of jobs and that amount of green jobs, which are obviously very, modern and being with the times. But where's that money coming from? There is no magic money tree in the Parliament orchard.
Well, you're seeing here, Victoria Scholar, a microcosm of a much bigger debate. We're conducting it politely and with respect, as we always try to here on GB News, but passions are very, very high. What do you suspect might happen here?
I think this is a complex debate, and I could see both sides of the argument. On the one hand, this is a project that could massively stimulate the local economy, create a whole host of jobs and provide a massive economic boost locally. But at the same time, we need to take a step back and look at the broader picture and the environmental concerns. And although there is clearly a deficit in terms of our energy demand, with supply falling short across the country and in fact across the world, exacerbated by the war in Ukraine, it's not necessarily that dirty energy that is the solution. We need to look to some of those more greener solutions and renewables instead.
Dave, let's go back to you. You and I are the senior members on this panel. We got two of the younger members here saying that we need to focus on the green agenda. Aren't we just out of touch? David Craddock.
Hello?
David.
I'm out of touch.
Yeah.
I don't think we're out of touch at all. If you look at what's going on in the world, you suddenly realise that how much we need to rely on our own resources. It's all very well, all this global economy and all that sort of stuff, but when all comes down to it, you're reliant on people in other countries making decisions that suit you when we should be making our own.
Isn't there something in that? I mean, Chris, you've heard that from David. He's raised a family and had a decent life based on coal mining. And then we've also got Oliver, who lives close to the mine. They want this mine to happen. China uses a lot more coal than we do, 400 times more. I put it to you again, in the middle of a cost of living crisis, wouldn't it be better for your cause? Wouldn't it be better if you showed a little bit of flexibility here?
I don't think we have the room for flexibility. The recent IPCC report spelled it out for us. It is end fossil fuels now or die. This is, we're in an emergency situation. And on one of the points of the other panelists about, where's this money coming from? We see from the government, when they perceive there to be an emergency, as with COVID, the money appears. It's about where that money is being funneled at the minute, and I'm more than happy to send the report about these new 9,000 green jobs to your producer after the show to send about as well. But this isn't this isn't a case of we have to have this mine when there are alternatives to it. Why would the panel not be in favour of creating more jobs, more green jobs, 9,000? Compared to just 500 from this mine.
Well, this is On the Money with me, Liam Halligan. After the break,